Welcome to the Big MJ Debate. I'm Pez Jax, and once again, I'm joined by my great friend, Char McLachlan, as we're going to discuss the Thriller 40 campaign. We're going to look at everything behind the last few months, from the album's release to the logo change, to the documentary, to all the events that happened around the world. And as you know, our channel has been covering them as we go. So, Char, here we go.
Okay. So start with the logo.
Let's do the logo.
So that was back in May. And obviously the first thing we had saw was the first logo, which everyone knows who watched our channel we were pleased with. I think we were hard pressed to find fans who were pleased with it.
Yes.
But it didn't set it off on a very good foot, did it?
No, because they kind of relented on it and changed.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't change it though. That's the thing. They kind of made out they did. And then it still turned up in Germany. It was still at the event in Sweden. It was still on the vinyl.
Yeah.
So they still, it was still on the merchant website. So they never actually relented on it. They just pulled it back a bit.
Yeah, it was phased out partly. And then we got about 4 other ones.
To be honest, the whole logo set up with Thriller 40 has been a mess.
Yeah.
Right? It's been a mess. When they did Bad 25, they added a crown on the 25, and that was it. Done. That was the logo for everything. With this one, we had the hideous new logo they put out with the new font, and they saw the reaction and they pulled it back. Then we had the version with the 40 and the peephole and the Michael Jackson underneath,
Which I loved.
which is the CD cover. Then we've had the 40 with the Michael Jackson Thriller, which is on your sleeve. So that's 3. Then we had the Thriller with the 40 on the end, which they used at the Immersive Experience in New York.
Yeah.
And the Twitter page used that, so that's 4. And now Nelson George has done one with Thriller and the 40 in the background, which is 5.
Yeah.
So one era, well, it isn't even an era, one couple of months anniversary album has had 5 different logos.
No cohesion, is there? Like, there should have been one strong one to begin with. Pick one and stick with it.
But that comes down to project management,
Yeah.
which we could get into, but we'll be here all day because everybody knows how I feel about that. But it's like, if you look at any of Michael's eras, the strength of them is off the bat of one logo. Off the wall is the chalk.
Yeah.
Off the wall, on the wall. That's it. Thriller is the Thriller font.
Yeah.
Bad logo, right? And the chunky black font. Dangerous is the eyes. History is the MJ logo and the statue. Invincible didn't really have an era, so...
It was there.
But to be fair, the font was kind of that kind of pixelated.
Yeah, and it was all kind of spaced
Yeah,
out.
and they used the eye a lot with the tear and all the rest of it. So Michael was very good at having like a look and a feel for that era. For Thriller 25, it was the same. Everything had the Thriller with the 25 in the background. That was the logo. How could you have 5 logos for one project?
It's poor. And to kind of set it off with that tone wasn't great. Then we had our patronising message.
Yes. I would look forward to the 4K short films. It's like, I'm still looking forward to Billie Jean.
But at which point did that wasn't like, that was a shut them up, because they didn't tell us, oh, you're getting 4K, by the way. That was their announcement.
Yeah.
It's as if, shut your mouth because we're getting 4K, and if you don't behave, you won't be getting it.
Well, it's interesting you say that was their announcement, because all of their announcements for Thriller 40 have kind of been done through that backdoor method.
Yeah.
Like, we find out that the documentary, which we'll come on to, is coming out in January through Branca's TikTok, which we'll also come on to. But there's sort of been no proper rollout of this campaign. I've worked in marketing for, over a decade. I'm a marketing director for a company. I've done a lot of project management. I've done a lot of product management and release as well. We do a lot of releasing products into the market. The mess in which Thriller 40 has been handled by a global estate and a global record company at that level is unacceptable.
It is.
It should never have been rolled on. They've released press release after press release but never actually release them. They go up on a press release site, and that's it, right? They never roll them out to the fans like they used to. They never announce them on their social medias like they used to. They just put them on the internet. It's like, put them out. They will come.
If you
Something
find, if you find them, you're the lucky ones. But yeah, like the social media really is the thing that gets to me the most, because in this day and age, 2022 estate, nearly 23, we need to be doing more of the social media. We need to. Branka has a TikTok and Michael doesn't. Come on.
I mean, if you was to go out in the street and say to people, which would you rather, Michael Jackson TikTok or Michael Jackson's lawyer TikTok?
They're all going to be like, who?
Right. And I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And I think, again, I know we're kind of jumping the gun a bit with the TikTok point. No, I'm going to hold it. We're going to come to that because I will jump in and I'll get annoyed. So the logo was the first thing to come out in May, and obviously that kind of set the tone. Then they put the album on a pre-sale and said, but we're not going to tell you it was on this tour until close to the time.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because you're asking people to part with their cash for something they don't know what they're going to get.
Bye.
And ironically, a lot of what we got was probably not what we wanted. So it's like, if you'd have already pre-ordered, surprise.
Yeah.
You get...
And then we've got the graphical career that they announced, the music, that clip art shit.
I am sorry. Except I'm not, actually. I'm not sorry. Firstly, the whole, like, let's make a word or let's make Michael's silhouette or let's make a number out of his song titles is no longer cute, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't been cute when they did it for the musical, when they announced all the song titles through that collage thing. It hasn't been cute for, well, forever. It's just not cute. Secondly, it's like, for fuck's sake, it's 2022, as you say. Could we not have a video announcement? Yeah. If you can make a TikTok chatting about Michael's jacket breaker, can we not have a video announcement for every single song? Could you not have announced every song on TikTok or in a 30-second video clip for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook? Like, and the next song is Starline. And a maybe 10-second snippet of what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Why is that hard? Instead, you update that boring graphic, and then the tweet that goes with it never even says song announcement. It just says, this song was written. It's like, sorry, which one?
It's like that they'll post a picture on Instagram from some random engagement in 1983, and they're like, on the 1st of August, 1983, Michael went to fucking wherever he went, and it's like, what has that got to do with anything? They just announced it in the most boring way. It was the most boring graphic I've ever seen in my life. It was literally black and white.
And nobody was getting hyped.
Guys.
No one was getting hyped by that. It didn't even have like a background.
But even if they had done like black background, 40 and like the kind of glowing thriller font, and all the songs were in that font, okay, we would have at least been able to be like, I see what they're going for here. It's the laziest thing ever.
It wasn't even a GIF that had like sparkles or whatever. It was just a flat ass white background with clip art fonts. The fonts had no correlation to the record.
And I've never seen them again since.
No. So it was just like, oh, let's pick 4 fancy fonts and just keep using them. It's like, who is driving this? Well, we know who is driving this, but for me, it felt like it came from a person or a group of people that have no real knowledge in how to release a product, how to create a movement around a product, how to design a product to feel cohesive and put it in the marketplace. It felt like someone had been given the opportunity to do it and was doing it the way they think, which is not the way it should be.
It also wasn't consistent releases. Like, it just felt like they were going up at the most random times. Like, here's the next song, by the way. If they had done, like you said, with the wee videos and stuff, imagine it was like, next song released this date.
Yeah.
It would have at least drummed up some sort of excitement for it.
Because the whole point of social media engagement, which is a big part of social media marketing, is to find ways to drive people back to the channel, to drive people to comment, to drive people to like, to drive people to dislike or quote or whatever. If you'd have given us a date and a time to be back, we'd have come back.
Yeah.
And you would have driven the engagement that you're looking for, but you didn't.
No.
And I think that there was a real disconnect with those song announcements, and also a lot of incorrect information. I'm still, and I am due to kind of speak to him, but they said in 1982, Bill Bottrell worked on Sunset Driver. He is on the paperwork for working on Sunset Driver in 1982. Categorically, Bill Bottrell told me he did not start working for Michael until Victory. It was 1983, and the first song he worked on was State of Shock. He says in a convention clip, "You can ask me any questions from State of Shock to Earth Soul."
Yeah, so we literally have it. He is not correct.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing. It's the way they release the thing. It's the design of the pictures that they put out. It's the information that they post to go along with it. It's just missing the mark every single time. And to be honest, I think as things like that were coming out, along with the logo, we were just getting less and less and less excited for this.
And to kind of, again, what we mentioned in the last episode when we were talking about, we don't want it to be like we're always complaining. We were hyped for Thriller 40.
Oh, we were delighted that we were getting this stuff.
And I know from, I was talking with somebody that works at Sony or has a connection with Sony last year, right? So 2021. And they were talking about Thriller 40 then.
Yeah.
And they said, we're going to be looking at Thriller 40 for next year. They were talking about it then. So I'm like, okay, this was, I need to check my dates, but this was like October, November time, 2021, that they said Thriller 40 is the next project. So effectively, you've had a year.
Yeah, and it's not all just been thrown in. They've had time. And also, the date that Thriller came out is never going to change now. So even 10 years ago, you knew it was Thriller 40 coming up.
Exactly.
We had plenty time. And I think this is going to be like the main point of this segment. But it just should have been more than what it was.
Yeah. Do yourself a favour, hon. Thriller 50 is coming out in 10 years this month.
We've got lots of time.
So get yourself started now. Get a mood board, draw a few ideas out, throw them away because they're probably crap. Hire a person that can actually deliver. You'll be there in 10 years.
And by that time, we'll be 10 years down the line with more of this shit, so you better get your act together because we won't be as forgiving in 10 years from now.
They're going to come out, you know what?
We'll have aged 50 years.
So we kind of set off on this weird roller coaster with a bad logo, a terrible logo, then not knowing what the songs are going to be, then this weird kind of song rollout. And then, out of the blue, we're hit with this announcement that there's going to be a series of events happening around the world within the next 2 weeks.
Announcement is a really gracious word to use.
Okay, so...
Unless you go looking for said announcement, you're not going to find it.
Which I did. Yeah, that's how I found it. So I read on Twitter, one fan had said, there's going to be an announcement coming out from Sony and the estate at like 2 o'clock, whenever it was. So I looked into like 3 or 4 press release websites that I know of, and I waited and I was refreshing. And the minute it hit time, it appeared. Within an instant, I scanned through, looked for London, found that they were doing a documentary here, hit the link, booked my tickets. And it hadn't even gone live. I think it was like 1 minute past 2 or whatever, and I'd booked my ticket. And then I jumped straight on the phone to you guys, and I was like, I've just sent you a link, get on it now, right? And we booked ours within within a minute or 2 of it going live. And then Seb put it out and then Divide, and it started to trickle out. But they never put it on their socials and said,
no,
important announcement about Michael Jackson events coming globally. Yeah. And they never did.
Which, to be honest, was why I was absolutely shocked and stunned to see as many people at that screening as there were.
How do you know?
No.
Who do you know? We'll be here all night. And then, so obviously the other the 3 types of events, you had a documentary screening in various countries, you had the immersive experience in Düsseldorf. And I'm sorry, it just seems such an odd choice.
It's so random. Yeah. Next year it'll be Glasgow.
We keep with. And then you had a Thriller 40 launch party in various countries, right? Yes. So they were the 3 kind of events. And my first reaction was, finally, you are acknowledging, Michael as a global artist, you are acknowledging that the fan activities should happen outside of the US.
Yeah.
Right? And I was so stoked. And I was like, you guys, finally, if you got it, I think I even tweeted about it. It was like, you got it, finally got it. And then what unfolded? So we'll start with the immersive experience, which we went to, and people have hopefully seen our episode on it.
A lot of you have seen it. We're really happy about it.
Just to say thank you to everybody who's watched that, because when we put it up, we were like, oh, I don't know. And it's done really well. And
Very, very surprised. Like,
do you know what? If only because we're not moaning about anything, and we're all like, yep.
It's like, finally we've got some fucking positivity.
For the most miserable bitch finally happy about something.
No, but we are really, really pleased with that. So thanks very much.
But, we went and we had a great time. We loved the elements there.
Yeah.
We love the merch, because you're wearing it right now. And I thought it was, all in all, really well done. It was a great kind of effort. But I think the kind of downside to it was that fans weren't told about it.
We also did, obviously I appreciate that things like that are probably a lot harder to create. I'm not sure. But it was only Europe and USA.
Yeah.
It would have been nice for Asia, Australia, Africa and stuff to maybe get chances like that.
Right.
But
I agree.
I appreciate that it wasn't just New York.
Yes.
Because we got to go. It was a free event. The promo was next to nothing.
Even in Dusseldorf, Sam and I found a screen where it came up.
Yes.
But that was it. It's not like it had a big...
It really did feel when we were there as if they were, of course, if you've seen the pictures or our video, they had Michael on a big, I don't know if it was a door or a window or whatever it was, but it was like a big sticker. And it really did feel like they were relying on people seeing him and going, oh, what's that? And wanting to go in instead of drawing in the market it's aimed for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's I said before, like, if one fan missed out because they weren't informed, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
You have 70 million people on your Facebook page. You have, I don't even know how many Twitter followers he has, and Instagram, and now Breaker's TikTok, and all these other avenues which you could have promoted it. If one fan missed out because they weren't aware, that's unacceptable.
And I think that is the reality that the majority of fans for everything that's been to do with Thriller 40 in terms of these events, everyone was ill-informed.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And that shouldn't have been the case. I'm glad we went, and I'm glad we got to experience it. I wish that more fans had the opportunity to see it. I think it wasn't made, the event itself wasn't made with the idea that it could be moved and transported. So, like, for example, the Billie Jean Street was built, I think, to be destroyed afterwards, whereas...
No, I'm not.
If it had been like flat packed or made in a way that you could then be transported to another city.
Yeah.
Same as like the Beta Calf. I love the Beta Calf, but they had painted the kind of green from the Beta Calf on the actual wall of the venue. Yeah. What they should have done is, like kind of what we're sitting in, built a frame.
Yeah.
That could have then been taken to London and to Paris and to Munich and to all these other places around the world.
Yeah, give people chances to see.
And it is that type of event that could have easily been moved.
Yeah. And that being said, though, while the event itself is free, obviously, if you don't live in Dusseldorf, you're not going to be going there unless that is made available to you. And also, we were fortunate enough to do it on such short notice.
Yeah.
A lot of people just wouldn't have been able to do that.
I mean, there is that as well. We're fortunate that living in Europe, we have
good access.
Yeah, cheap flights, and but even that, it did add up. There were flights, there was accommodation, there was food, and it was only for overnight.
And any of you who just feel like go to Dusseldorf, don't fly to Leeds Airport. Unless you want to pay £200 visit.
You and your mum on the riverbank, and you'd be like, fucking weird airport. Oh, brilliant. But then we saw the one in New York happen afterwards, and we've seen fans that have gone, and that looked fantastic. They had a few things different, obviously. I really liked in the New York one that the dancers performed Thriller in front of Thriller 4K.
Yeah.
So they came out when the zombies came out and performed it. And that, I thought, made it more immersive. Also, the dancers in New York were on point.
Yeah.
Whereas in Germany, they were maybe
But tired.
a bit, not much room around that tree to be well.
Didn't have enough seats for everyone.
Yeah.
And some tables on the floor.
So I think the New York, and obviously the New York had better merch, or different merch, but a lot of merch.
Yeah. Love the merch that we got, but of course, I would love for it to be the same for everyone, and we'll talk about this later, but why is it not the same with every event, no matter where it is? Everyone seems to get a different experience, even though we're all going to the same thing.
That's the thing. Even they need different logos for the New York one. It's like, but surely it's either Michael Jackson Thriller 40 immersive experience or it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like, the thing I do like is that you got a t-shirt and a tote bag with Germany and one with New York. That's cool because that's like, you go to a concert and you get it but the rest of the merch should have been accessible to everybody. The fact they had like Letterman jackets in New York, but they didn't have them and they had the silk bomber jacket, but not in New York. Like, it should have been the same. And again, that's just poor planning on somebody's part. But yeah, I liked the fact that those events existed, and I thought that really brought something different to the table.
Yeah, and I did, although it wasn't really particularly marketed towards the fans, and as I said, they were kind of relying on people coming in off the street. I liked that element because it would have been nostalgic for people, especially who remember the original release of the launch, to be like, oh wow, this is cool, and whatever else.
And we did witness a lot of that. We witnessed a lot of people going, what is this?
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, for me, there's never a more proud fan moment than when seeing someone else get excited by something.
Yeah, we just see them enjoying it.
So I think, as far as the immersive experience goes, I hope they do something like that again.
I would love that.
And take it out of the world at least.
Yes.
Why don't they do it for Vegas? Like, you've got MJ1 there, you've got a big conference center. They could have, like, come to MJ1, see the show, do the immersive experience. I'll make a day of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, something like that in the form of, kind of on the wall that they had done. Because remember that on the wall kind of toured a bit?
Yes.
Something like that for the immersive experience would be so cool.
I think it'd be great. It would be, especially on Michael's birthday as well, beat we and now Michael Bush for that.
And even then, they...
10th annual book thing.
Michael Brown. Then they're not limited to Thriller either, because they could do it for just like the most iconic video. Imagine them remember the time immersive experience. That would be so...
I'd be there. I'd be there to
sat on the floor.
A bit like the time fantasy. So that was really good. Then obviously the other thing they did, so the second kind of part was the launch parties.
Yes.
It depends who you speak to about whether they had a good time. I could tell you firsthand from the Paris event that it wasn't very good, and people have hopefully seen my video on that. Then the Swedish fans, we had one kind of tell us that they didn't have a good time. Apparently, a lot of other people did. Then the Chile event, the fans said there that it wasn't very good. Fans party in the Philippines that they said was rubbish.
Yeah.
And I think the whole kind of aspect of the launch parties have just been really poor.
I think it just seems to be that everywhere that's not America, they just kind of half-arse it. Like, America always seems to get the biggest and best when it comes to anything, Michael. The immersive experience was bigger there. I mean, we enjoyed it in Germany, but it was bigger. The launch parties, from what I've seen online, the biggest ones were in America. So it just, as much as we're happy that there's events throughout the world, it would be nice if they were all up to the same par.
Yes, I agree. I think with the, with the parties, I do know that the estate got involved in preventative things. So, for example, Sony France wanted to give every attendee a glove with like Thriller on it. And the estate said, no, we can't do that.
See, that pisses me off.
For me, the question is like, if they want to do something for Michael and they want to do something in Michael's name, does it damage his brand? Does it cheapen his brand? And I'm sorry, but asking the estate whether something damages or cheapens his brand is the height of hypocrisy, because we need to look at the social media channels to see how they damage and cheapen his brand. But like when you're stopping people having a good time by something as simple as giving them a glove,
I know.
there is, to me, there's no genuine rhyme or reason as to why you would say no.
No, I know.
But yeah, I just felt the parties were really lacking substance.
Sparkle.
Yeah, and when you look at the Scream parties that happened in 2017, they were amazing, right? And then you fast forward just a few years to Thriller, and the world's biggest selling album, and they were rubbish. Like they just didn't live up to standard. I think, what I found out after with the French event is that there were a group of French fans who were lovely that I got to spend time with, but the majority was kind of like Z-list TV stars.
Yes, like
And I said afterwards, you could tell that there were mostly non-fans in that room.
which it should not be that way.
No. And again, I saw that there was some French fans saying online, like, I've never heard back from Sony. I entered the lottery, but it never heard back. Another one was like, me too, So what is going on here?
Yeah.
Why is that happening? Why is it not being shared with the fans?
I almost at times I felt like we wanted it to flop. Like at times it felt very hard to think anything else. It felt like there was a draw just so that it looked like you had a chance, Like I didn't see anyone on Twitter being like, I won tickets. But that there is no way that all the people who entered and won were not on Twitter, because people would have been tweeting about that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a weird thing. I think you're right. There did feel like an element of that. And then with the laws parties, which were all meant to happen on the same day and didn't, we then flash forward to the day after, which was when the album was released.
Yeah.
So obviously finally after this, 5-month build up, we're getting the album. And it was really hard to find.
But even that, like, there was no Instagram adverts, there was no billboards, there was no TV adverts, there was no radio adverts. Where could you actually, if you're not a fan, where would someone say, oh my God, 40 years Thriller? Where were they going to find that? Unless you go looking for it.
You're completely right. I think unless you knew it was coming. And what's great about Thriller is that for people of our parents' generation and even older, they get to relive the nostalgia of the album.
Yeah.
And we, as a younger crowd, I say we, you, as the younger crowd, get to kind of like be in a new era of a classic album. And it just fell short. I mean, I was in Paris the day it came out. I went to Fnac on Champs-Élysées, which is one of the big stores. And I went in and I was like looking for it, and I'm thinking, right, where's Thriller 40? So I'm looking for a cardboard cutout. And France have always been really good at kind of like big promos. You still can buy a lot of magazines in France. Like, it's not like here where you can't get any of that. So I was like, right, where's the promo? Couldn't find it anywhere. I'm like walking around, I'm sweating because I've got to get back and get my Eurostar. I'm not wasted. Where's it? And I found the vinyl on the shelf, and I was like, oh, it's the crappy vinyl with the new thing. I'm like, where's the CD? So I looked in the Michael section, couldn't see it. So I went up to this guy and I was like, oh, Michael Jackson Thriller 40. Well, I've told the story already, but then he just pointed and there were 4. And I bought 2, which left 2 behind. And I was thinking, this is launch day.
Yeah.
Then in London on the Sunday, so 2 days after launch, I went into Fob, which is the only kind of leading music store in London now that's not an independent. And we couldn't find it. So we asked and they said, oh yeah, we haven't got any. So I said, can I just ask, how many copies did you get?
Yeah.
On Friday? They said we had 4 copies. So for a launch weekend, like if you said I haven't got any more because we had a shit ton and all sold out, amazing. But 4 copies.
I know.
And then there was issues with Amazon's delivery.
Still is.
There still is. And it was like, why is this album not being rolled out properly?
It's as if they're making it by demand and not prior to release. Like,
Well, it's funny you say that because MichaelJackson.com have had an issue with making stuff to demand. So I pre-ordered the box vinyl, like the high quality sound one.
Yeah.
The minute they announced it, I pre-ordered. Right? Seb pre-ordered 3 days after me. He received his, and I got an email saying yours is delayed. And I was like, but I ordered before him. And as always, MichaelJackson.com, I can't prove it, but I probably could, always seem to go, like, if you pre-order something, they'll go from the most recent order first.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense.
Instead of from the person who ordered first.
Yeah.
And then while I get an email saying your vinyl is going to be delayed because of production issues, I see the images coming out of the immersive experience in New York where it's piled high. And I'm like, if it's on display in New York, shouldn't I have it?
Yeah.
Because I've actually paid for mine.
No.
Why is it available in New York and I still have it? So there was just a lot of issues with getting hold of a copy. And it's funny, though, because for an estate that was so focused on physical, they would probably turn around and go, well, you could listen to it on Spotify anyway. It's like, I know. And then you sort of partner that with the fact that 4K videos for Thriller and Beat It had come out to kind of no noise.
But what makes me so angry is, like, see, I don't know if you've seen people posting clips of the 4K on TikTok. Near enough every clip of it's going viral. They are missing a trick here. Make a Michael Jackson official TikTok. Like, they're missing out on all these followers, likes, views, whatever, all this traction from their newest release. And all the randoms are there for picking up on it and putting it on TikTok. What are you doing?
Exactly. And I think it was yesterday was the first time they've actually mentioned publicly there are 4K videos. Yesterday. And they've been out now for, what, 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, because someone tweeted, I think it was Damien Shield. And they said, oh, it looks like the account's been hacked. Finally.
It was that. And it's true because it's like, hold the fuck up. You finally released Michael Jackson in 4K, the king of the music video, the person that should have been the first one. The minute 4K video became a thing, the estate should have been like, we're first. You finally drag your ass out of wherever to deliver it with, you know, with all this kind of like, oh, suppose, son. And don't even mention it. You put it on YouTube, don't even mention it. And you think, this is thrilling.
Yeah.
Mad.
I know. The lack of availability is really poor. I don't know if that's, I mean, I bet they will have some smart answer, like the streaming is our main form of whatever. There is no excuse for sending.
The global energy crisis. Manufacture.
Personally, I would look forward to streaming it from the comfort of your own home without having to go buy a CD or whatever they would say. There's always some smart fucking response. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like, there should be posters in the front of all these CD shops. There should be big promos, cardboard cutouts. Like, where is all this stuff?
It's interesting because somebody commented on, it might be one of our previous videos or on Twitter or somewhere, and said, yes, but anniversary reissues don't get this sort of promotion anyway, so why are you all kicking off? And so I tried to do a bit of digging around and find out if there's any merit to that. I couldn't say one way or the other because I looked at like Celine, who's just released 25th anniversary of Let's Talk About Love, and she's like changed all her cover photos and headers, and there was a promo about it. Queen do promos a lot. Bowie's got collections and all the rest of it. I think that aside, whether that is the case or not, this is Thrill.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the world's biggest selling album. I don't know how many times I have to reiterate that point. If other anniversaries don't do promo, you do. Because it's Thrill.
Like, and on that point, Michael is dead. Michael is not here to promote it how he would like to promote it. We will never know. If Michael had been here, would we have even got a Thriller 40? We will never know that. It doesn't matter what sort of release it is, whether it's an anniversary reissue, whether it's a new release entirely, whether it's a new album with a couple of remixes chucked in. Everything should be biggest and best because that's what Michael was for. I don't care what sort of material we're throwing at us, promote it and promote it well. Yeah. That's how I feel about it.
We were talking about it before we were filming about like history.
Yeah.
And the level of promotion that went into history. And it was like, I don't care. If you feel this is in your face and you feel this is over the top, good.
Good.
Michael was doing everything bigger. And bearing in mind, this is the first album release and the first global release since that film that came out in 2019. The estate should have gone big, bold, in your face, don't care, screw you, it's Thriller. Try and ignore it. And they haven't. They've just kind of drip-fed it. And, Thriller turned 40, 2 days ago? And a lot of media have kind of picked up on it. A lot of music media are talking about it. But that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's Thriller, right? So I don't sort of credit them for there being coverage in the last week because that was going to happen anyway.
One of the things that we have spoken about before that I think just would have brought in the nostalgia, brought in a new generation, is if they had kept us all waiting up to see Michael Jackson Thriller like you've never seen it before, like they did when it first came out. Say we were all waiting till 11 o'clock to see it in 4K. Can you imagine if they had done that and drummed it all up and been like, this is just like they did back in the 80s.
Yes.
We should have all been waiting up for that. And it could have been like, well, my mum stayed up to watch it. She could have watched it with her children now. Like this perfect example of...
Like 11:55, so it's close to midnight, like the sun says. Yeah. And they could have, exactly that. So that you get the kind of generational experience of your parents experienced it for the first time when it came out, and now they're seeing it as a new format. Yeah. And the younger generation are seeing it in this incredible format for the first time. What a moment that could have been.
Yeah, and especially even better if it was 2 weeks before Halloween.
Right, so I saw a conversation about this week, and people were discussing whether the estate were right to hold off. I don't think they should have released the record for Halloween. No. I think they made the right decision not to do that because although Thriller, the album is big at Halloween, the album is a lot more than Halloween. Mm-hmm. He's an incredible R&B soul funk record, and I think it needs to stand on its own merit. But releasing Thriller 4K 2 weeks after Halloween was a stupid fucking move.
Yeah, and also, as we know from the Skate Party in 2017, Thriller 3D is sitting there.
Yeah.
Why was we might not have been able to put it in theatres at Halloween, but why couldn't we put it before horror films? Why couldn't we have put it before...
Even as a surprise, it's only from Danger as well.
You're showing trailers anyway. So why is it not there?
Exactly. And that's the thing, like with Thriller on YouTube, if they'd have put that out for Halloween, it would have kick-started the campaign. That could have been the start of the campaign. Then they've only got 2 weeks till the album drops. So it's not like it's a big slog.
We're not asking you to work that hard.
Exactly. I mean, come on, Bracken. You don't want to get out of that chair and you're sucking on TikTok for more than 10 minutes. It's all right, hon. But it's like you could have kickstarted the campaign 2 weeks beforehand by dropping to the 4K on Halloween. Your numbers would have rocketed for the viewings. And then you would have added a thing at the end that said, Thriller 40, released November 18th. At the end of that, right? And then that kickstarts your campaign. And then you start to drip feed, like, a few social ads, a few campaign ads, and then the album comes out. But there was literally nothing. It's like, if ever there was a golden goose.
I know.
It was Halloween, 2 weeks before the launch of a Thriller record. But
all these clips, it makes me so mad, and not the way that people speak on TikTok, because 99% of the comments on TikToks of Michael are positive. But all the people said, oh my God, this is amazing. Where can I see this in full? Like, where can I see this full length? And no one knows about it.
It's mad.
People shouldn't be finding out about this through a clip they see on TikTok.
And again, just to kind of reiterate the point that we've made a couple of times today, this is not coming from a place of negativity against the estate, right? And I think there is a kind of idea that it's like, we're not hating on the estate. What we're saying is, you could do more.
Yeah.
You could deliver more. You could do better for Michael, which in turn does better for you and your bank balance.
Yes.
It's never coming from a place of, like, I said to somebody the other day that complaining about not having enough promo is not saying to not do any at all.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're not saying, you shouldn't be releasing this. How dare you release? Michael wouldn't want these songs out the vault. That's not the complaint. The complaint is, if you're going to take them out, make sure the world knows about them, because that's what Michael would do.
Exactly. And I remember making this point in the very first episode that we did. We can be so excited and thrilled that there is
She'll be here all night.
that was a cheap joke. We can be so excited and happy that there's a release and that they're doing these events and that we've got the documentary, we've got the immersive experience. The two things can exist at once, where we're happy about that, but disappointed in the way it's being put out to the public. It doesn't mean that we hate the estate. We hate everything they stand for. We think they're rubbish and we think this, that, and the next thing. We'll still go to these events when they're made available to it, and we did go. We supported these things, but we're still disappointed in what this could have and should have been. Both can exist at once.
Exactly. I mean, I would always want more for Michael.
Yeah.
Right? Michael is the biggest star in the world, and I would always want him to be held on that high pedestal, because he is my idol. He is the artist I admire most in the world, so I want the best for him. And that may exceed the expectation of capability, but it doesn't matter, because that's this is a guy, right? This is a guy that and I wrote a book on history, so when he released the History album, he stood in a room with all the Sony execs and said, this album is going to sell 100 million copies. And all the people in the room were like, oh, God, like. But he said, and Dan Beck told me afterwards, he said, Michael was like, if we don't dream and we don't accept the possibility that this could happen and think big and think, then we're never going to get it.
Yeah.
We're never even going to get close to getting it. We've got to at least imagine a world where this could happen and strive for that. And I'm like, that's what Michael is about. And that's what Thriller 40, in my eyes, that's where my kind of disdain for Thriller 40 parts of the campaign come from, is that Michael was about thinking, how can this be bigger? So when I walk the streets and I don't see a single billboard, well, that's how it could be big.
Yeah.
When I turn on my TV, and I don't own TV, but if I turn on my TV and I don't see an ad, that's how it could be bigger. When I'm on YouTube, let's go to the digital side, and I don't see a YouTube ad for Thriller before I watch a video, that's how it could be bigger. This is what I'm talking about in terms of dreaming bigger and thinking bigger and reaching more people.
Even when it was Michael's 60th birthday, we had Instagram adverts for the playlist and it contained the You Mark Ronson remix. We had Instagram adverts telling us it's the dining celebration. Where was that?
We had it for Scream as well.
Yeah.
We had loads of promo for Scream. There were billboard ads. There were, as you say, there were ads on Instagram and stuff, where it was going through the cobwebs and the cat and all the rest of it. There's none of that for Thriller.
And just as you had said that you will always want more for him as he's your idol and everything else, he has also earned the right to be at the top. He deserves to have the biggest amount of promo, to have these huge displays of go and buy it, go and watch it, all the rest of it, because it's not the biggest selling album of all time for nothing.
Exactly. And, then you pair that with the fact that when we constantly hear, we've earned $2 billion as the estate, Michael is the biggest artist on the planet. Don't you forget it. It's like, we don't forget it. But sometimes I think you might. Because, it's not leveling out. If you've got $2 billion, why am I getting 5 logos on the campaign?
I know.
And I'm sure there's a lot of kind of things going on in the background that we're not privy to.
Well, it always is.
And to be honest, I don't give a fuck.
No.
Right? Your personal grievances with this one and another are not my problem. My problem is if I walk into a music shop and I can't buy Michael, there's a problem.
Yep.
That's the problem.
And as you said in the Paris vlog, at what point do we just stop making excuses for them and say, this is just naff. This is just not it.
Yeah. And there is, I finally got Thriller on CD. I love the unreleased songs. Obviously, we heard them as well, but I love most of them. We've already covered our favourites and non-favourites. I I like the kind of silver sleeve. I'm not a big fan of the peephole, but whatever. The booklet is naff. The booklet is a real letdown. First and foremost, I would have made it 40 pages, 40 years of thriller, 40 pages, just me. The pages inside are like it's been done on PowerPoint.
Yeah.
There is no thought to that, though, the layout. There's a really naff picture from Thriller, like a really grainy picture.
It's like screenshots.
Yeah. And then there's screenshots in the middle, but the screenshots were obviously taken before the 4K videos were made.
So what fucking sense does that make? Like,
Right. It's a really lazy package.
yeah.
And it's not very nicely put together. The same for the limited edition vinyl with the terrible new logo on. If you open it, it's again a montage of screenshots, but it's not printed level. So it's kind of like almost cut off at the top and not the. It's just the attention to detail was not there.
Yeah, that's
And I can only assume, and again, this is purely my guess, that there is a breakdown in communications between the estate and the Sony, because I fail to understand how a record label who do this for a living would let these things pop.
yeah.
And the reason I can assume is because it's either we're not involved or we don't care.
Yeah. I obviously can't speak on their behalf, but I genuinely, throughout all of this, have felt like they just don't care. That's how it's felt. I would love to be wrong.
Would you say that's from Sony's part of the estate's part of both?
Judging by what we learned about Sony from Paris event, I would probably say it's more on the estate's behalf, because I don't see any reason why they can't be giving out gloves, why they can't be doing the absolute most. And it seems like it's the estate who's put a stop to that. But then we can't blame them for everything, because Sony could have put out more adverts.
Do you think it's a case of don't ask, don't tell, in the sense that, like, why is it that the Sony France had pretty much nothing and said that the estate stopped them, but yet the documentary in Amsterdam had like popcorn with Michael on it, had coasters with Michael on it, had posters to give out. The Swedish party had posters to give away, but France had nothing because they weren't allowed. So I'm wondering if there's an element of, if they've asked permission, they've been told no, and if they've just gone, sorry, let's just do it.
Surely then the fans who are taking time to attend deserve an explanation for that. Yeah. Because do they think that, like, come on, they know how well integrated this community is with people from all over the world. Do they honestly think that no one's going to post a picture of their fucking Michael popcorn holder and their coaster and all that, and we'd all not sit and think, well, why did we get that?
Exactly. Which, I mean, then the conversation kind of leads us nicely into the kind of third event that they did, which was the documentary. So obviously we went to the documentary in London 2 nights ago. And again, it was kind of, I think there were 2 posters on the walls, which were both stolen by the same 2 people, who were very unkind to, they were 2 French fans that were very unkind to a UK fan who pulled them up for filming. And then they went and stole the posters off the walls by removing the frames, unscrewing the frames, and ripping the posters down and running out with them under their coats, which, you know, if you have to do that, then clearly not meant for you.
Yeah.
But there was 2 posters, a free bar, and that's kind of it in London.
There wasn't anything to say, this is Michael, this is Thriller. Nothing was kind of branded, if you will. And don't get me wrong, I really think, I said this to Pez before we started filming, I really think the fans made the event. Like, everyone was there, everyone was enjoying it, and it was great to see so many people there. But that was definitely not due to advertising.
Every other country had a red carpet. Every other country had a backdrop.
Yeah.
I mean, LA had Michael's 8 Grammys, had the white suit that he wore to Thriller. And we didn't have anything. But
that's just begged the question, like, what did we do? we want the same stuff. We would like branded things, like, we would like Michael's face everywhere in it.
I think it's another case of, because I know that Sony UK do go to the estate for permission for things. It's like they did with the Diamond Crown on the South Bank. They had to ask the estate's permission to do it. So I wonder if it's a case of, as I said before, if a Sony regional Sony asks permission, they're more likely to be told no or yes than if they just do it.
Yeah, but then I think I think us as fans and us who attend these things are owed explanations as to why it is different amongst different countries and stuff, because it does start to feel a bit like, well, we're putting in the effort to go, like and we still had a great time, but it just feels off.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it. I don't think I'm putting it across in the right way, but it just feels off. It feels like, oh, Amsterdam gets this, America gets this, and we get not a lot. Like,
I think I'm disappointed because I loved what they did in Dusseldorf. The Paris event wasn't up to much. And I was thinking, for being in London and being in the UK, like, this is my hometown.
yeah,
I was ready for London. I'm like, right, on my doorstep, this is London, this is Michael, let's go.
yeah.
And then, you know, not kind of toot my own horn, because I know people like to say I have an ego, but when you turn up to King Medicine and you see that giant album cover out the front, it's like,
Yeah.
Michael's here, Thriller's here, 40 years. And then you turn up to the cinema and it's like, so that popcorn? Oh, no, Michael's not on the popcorn. Is that? No, that's hot dog? Yeah, all right.
Everyone was commenting as well on how the music that they were playing in the cinema, we didn't get anything off the Thriller albums, but we did 12 songs in or something. I think we had every other album apart from Thriller, and that's just a petty comment, but at the same time, it's just, these are all the little details that make it matter and make it mean something that we didn't get again. And with it being the last of the promotional events, I feel like it was really the time to push the boat out, and it just didn't happen. Not in London anyway.
So now that the campaign, now that the,
Promotional tour that we've taken ourselves on.
now that this has kind of reached its climax, is there anything that you think during the campaign that you actually liked in terms of the visuals or something they put together or package or anything? Was there anything that you really loved?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the merch that we got at the immersive experience. I loved the immersive experience. I did really enjoy the documentary of what we saw of it. I loved getting to spend time with other fans, especially you guys. I loved a couple of those.
You can't have more than one. I like that one.
Yeah, thanks this one.
Yeah, that one is the best for me.
I like this one. There was something else I was going to say that I enjoyed. Can't remember.
Bits of the documentary.
Yeah, pieces of it.
And obviously having, to hear those unreleased songs, whether they were peripherally.
Yeah.
You know, that's never really been a complaint, right? I'm not complaining about having unreleased music. I'm just complaining about the fact that if it's not meant to be for Thriller, it shouldn't be on Thriller.
Is there anything that I've said, or that I've not said, that you liked?
No, I think I agree with you for the most part. I loved the immersive experience. I loved kind of being able to feel, right, we're on a Michael promo again. Like, suit up, let's go. I've loved that, to be able to, and the fact that I've got to do all three types of events. I did Dusseldorf, I did the party, and there's another documentary. So I loved being able to do that and being in a position to be able to do that. I loved the merch, some of it. And I liked feeling like we're in a Michael cycle again.
Yeah.
Like that there's something, because obviously since 2019, all that's happened really is Enter the Musical. And all you keep hearing is like, yeah, it's been amazing. Yes, it's won a Tony. We've bought a Grammy, whatever. And it's like, okay, but there's a whole other world. So to now feel like we're part of something again is great.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed that and having a discussion about those topics. So I think my kind of likes on this one are pretty much the same as yours. And I think if Ilya was here, he'd probably agree with us, except for what a lovely way to go. But
Sorry, how am I getting the one that's getting dug out for my views that he loves that song? That should be.
Not bitter.
We can't all be like me.
And I think what I've actually noticed as well is that weirdly, Thriller 40 was the stimulus for us to start doing this.
Yeah.
And do this channel and to feel inspired. And it's been really nice kind of when I've been to the events, and particularly in London, we had it, the people would say to us, oh, I really enjoyed hearing your points of view, which is funny because you seldom get told that your point of view is but it's been nice to kind of be able to discuss things out loud. And because we did this all the time.
Yeah.
We're on the phone to each other when we meet up in person, we're like moaning about this or say, oh, I love that. And it's nice to be able to kind of put a camera to that and be sharing that and getting other people's take on it. So I think that's kind of been a good thing that's come of it as well.
Yeah, one of the girls that was at the screening in London had said to me that she really enjoys watching it. She said, I feel like I have empty friends.
Oh, that's so nice.
How sweet is that? And I just thought that's exactly what we kind of said we wanted it to be.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, Thriller 40, or maybe our anger for Thriller 40 at the very beginning has spurred on this, which has been really good. In no way am I disappointed that there was a release.
No.
Or
Never.
disappointed that there was promotional events. I just, as we've always said, it's the way in which they've been delivered that hasn't been up to par for what Michael is and what Thriller is.
I think a lot of that stems from, it's hard because you're never going to please everybody. And Michael has a very big and very diverse fan base, which we know. But I think there's an element of holding the estate to a standard that is at least minimum. And I think if you just praise everything they do with no commentary, then it doesn't really give them an idea of how they're doing well or not. And I know that they can be a bit like, if you say something bad about us, then you hate us. And it's like, no, that's not it. Yeah. If I hated you, I wouldn't have checked my ass out to Vegas 8 or 9 times to see MJ1. I love MJ1. That's a very estate-based thing. You know, I loved Bad 25. The package, the documentary, I loved everything about Bad 25. I loved Escape. Didn't so much like the Michael album. You know, don't like MJ the musical. I very much pick and choose, and I've always said this. You know, I'm take and leave things. But I do think there is an element of, and I said this to fans the other night of the documentary, that Michael's legacy is a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? It involves the estate, it involves the family, and it involves the fans. And we have to work together more. It can't just be we're telling you this is what it is, and you have to take it. It is a collective responsibility. And I think sort of coming back to the point that we're going to make is that if we just tell the estate that everything they do is great, then we neglect that collective responsibility to really ensure that we're getting the best.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the honesty is definitely important. I don't understand why certain people maybe feel as if they have to approve of it. You don't have to love every song. You don't have to love every release, everything that the estate brings out. Be opinionated, stand on their opinions and say, I don't like this or I love this. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're not going against Michael by having an opinion.